Hi! Thanks for stopping by to watch me, Leah, cook kosher. Today I'm going to show you how to make classic Knish dough, the type that is rolled and stretched and pulled very, very thinly. Knish dough, to my mind, is not puff pastry. It is not store-bought phyllo dough. As easy as those things are, to me it's a hand-pulled, very thin strudel dough. It's simple, but it still takes a little bit of finesse. So let me show you how. A classic Knish dough is simple. It's not a yeast dough. It's made with flour, water, eggs, oil, salt, and the secret ingredient, white vinegar. All I have to do is throw everything into the bowl and let it knead for about 12 minutes. Now, if you don't have a mixer with the dough hook attachment, this can all be done by hand. Throw it in a bowl and knead it like Grandma used to do. So let's just put our ingredients in. Dry ingredients first, flour and salt. And I'm just going to turn this on to 2 and mix those dry ingredients. Pour in my water. Oil. Eggs. These have all been checked, of course, for blood spots. And the vinegar. I'm going to turn it up just for a second. Okay, so the directions for my mixer say don't use a dough hook beyond the second speed. So we'll do that, but it will take 12 to 15 minutes. And then we're going to check the dough for elasticity, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if the dough looks a little sticky, just go ahead and sprinkle just a little flour at a time. But we don't want a dough that is too hard and dry. All right, we're at about the halfway mark. I want to check to see my dough. Now, what I'm looking for is dough that will stretch and stretch without getting a hole in it. Just like when you're doing pizza dough or something. As you can see, it's making holes. Not done yet. Okay, back in. We're going to give it another 5 minutes. All right. I am going to test this to see where we're at. I don't want to overheat the motor on the mixer. Let's get my dough off the hook. And let's see where we are. Okay, see how that stretches without really tearing? It's pretty good. Pretty good. So what I'm going to do is just take it out. It's a little bit soft. It's soft. It's slightly tacky, but not too much. So it's not a real hard dough. That would just make life impossible. Flour my surface just a little bit. And give it a few kneads by hand. Because this is really what's, fun and relaxing about baking. And see, that's pretty good. So I'm going to let it rest. But to do that, I'm going to take some canola oil, drizzle a little bit on my pan here. You could also put this into a bowl if you'd rather have it in a bowl. I like to work my dough when it's really chilled and has had a couple of hours at least to just relax. So I'm going to go ahead, set this in the fridge, clean this up, be right back with you. Here are my two fillings. Potato, kasha. Let me show you how to roll them into the most fabulous knishes. All right, now that we've got our fillings made, our dough has rested, and it looks really greasy, but that's okay, because that's how I want it. Now, again, I'm used to the bakery where we're gonna make, 50 billion of something. So I'm gonna cut this in half, but we're gonna start pulling it out from the middle and stretching it and stretching it. Now I have to tell you, it's a two-person job. So Aviva's the one that wanted me to make knishes today, so guess who's gonna be my other person? All right, Aviva, you ready to help me out here?
Yes.
Okay, so what we need to do is put a little oil on your hands. I know you already washed your hands, and especially on the top, because when we pull, we kind of pull like this. We kind of reach our hands under and we stretch from the middle over our hands through our knuckles. So that's how we're going to do it. So Aviva, you can stay there. I'm going to move kind of off to the side. And
what part do you want me to?
You're going to do the same thing. We're going to touch knuckles underneath and we're going to stretch. So knuckle to knuckle, way up underneath, and now gently start pulling it out and kind of stretch it wide. We're trying to make something that's going to cover this whole countertop. So just keep stretching it out. Be careful so you're getting thin there. Come back to the middle, and stretch. We've got to get it all these things out that are looking thick. Don't poke your fingers. Knuckles, and just keep. Let's get a little tension. You're going to have to move back a little bit. Let's put it down and see how we're doing. Okay, you can see this is thick. It has to be seriously very thin. Thin. Pull. We don't want any holes in it. So we're just going to keep pulling it out. You can see the countertop through sections of it, but basically we want to get this very thin. And we do need a rectangular shape because we're going to be rolling in strips. So okay, we just lift it up. Keep going. This is a great great surface for this sort of thing. But we have to get all of it. All the edges have to be thin, because otherwise you can't chew it. I really think this is the way to go. It's a lot of work, a lot more work than opening a box of thawed puff pastry, but you get a whole different end product. Okay. That looks great, honey. Thank you for your help. We once did a Jewish festival and we had to make like 3,500 of these things. And trust me, I use we in the corporate sense. I really didn't make any of them, although I did make the fillings. Not bad, I only tore it in one place, but I have to get all of those things flattened out. Okay, I think you can see in the video some of these darker spots, and we'll be able to get it even thinner when we start rolling them up. I think we did pretty good there. All right, on to the next step. All right, we have our big rectangle of dough, and I have a ginormous scoop. This is the size we used to make them at the bakery, and I'm not messing around today, okay? So I'm going to take a scoop of knish filling, I'm going to put it right on the edge there. And of course, everything I do is production style. Give myself a little bit of room in between. I actually have enough dough, I'll be able to use it all up with these things. Because I don't have a big pizza wheel, I'm using the small one. I'm going to go ahead and trim off that edge, just because it's still thick. I mean, believe it or not, that's thick. Now, I'm going to cut strips. think maybe I'm going to stop there. That might be enough. I can go roll the other direction. They don't have to be straight. I'm trying to keep the same width. Not too bad. I'll just go ahead and this dough you can't really reuse, okay? Now the tricky part. So I have a nice round scoop of filling, and I have dough that's on the edge, so it's still kind of thick. Look at, I'm gonna squeeze it out. I'm gonna pull it till it's very thin, and then I'm gonna bring it over. All of it, anywhere that it's thick, I really don't want it like that. I'm gonna trim that off. And then I'm going to take the whole filling and I'm stretching it. So I'm stretching it thin and wide. See, I'm pulling it this way and I'm alternating my roll. Stretch, stretch, and it's okay if it tears. It has to be thin. Otherwise it's gonna not be flaky and crisp. It'll just be a tough dough. And I think that is enough. Okay, and even the end, stretch it as thin as you can. Make it nice and round, flatten it down, and there's your ginormous Knish. Okay? Put that onto the parchment paper, and then just keep rolling. You have to find a way to, you're pulling, you're stretching, you're doing all sorts of things at the same time. Spinning that, getting it thin, keeping the filling inside, but basically, just keep rolling, stretching, nice and thin. Get the filling closed up. Take the end, stretch it over as thin as you can. Okay, round it up a bit, flatten it down, and there's your Knish. All right, I'm going to show you now how to get these ready for the oven. So we have 6 ginormous Knishes. Each one's like a, lunch in of itself. I'm going to brush each one with an egg wash. It's just beaten egg, and poke it with a fork. We used to have different symbols for poking them so we knew what was on the inside. And that's it. Bake them at 350 to 375 just until they're nice golden brown. Pull them out of the oven and they'll be awesome. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, let's see how we're doing here in the oven. All right, those look beautiful. Now, for those of you at home, you may be saying, whoa, those are jumbo. Well, yeah. These are the size we used to make in the bakery. So they're pretty big, but no one complained at the time, So of course, if you want to make them smaller, go for it. But right there, with a little bit of mustard, that's a nice snack. So I did throw a couple of potato. This one's a potato, that's the kasha. This one has a little of the potato oozing out. You can see how yummy, yummy, yummy. That looks great. Baked or not, bake them off later, but have plenty of them on hand for the summer. The kids love them. And don't forget, the recipe for these and all my other favorites are on leahcookskosher.com.